class in school finance she's taking, and contacted me yesterday and said I have to do an assignment and film someone talking or doing something with school finance. And I said, well, I got the perfect thing for you the next 3 mornings, stop by. So welcome, Stephanie. So we're into this emoji thing, and I was a late adopter, but there I am, and there we all are in cartoon format. Did you want to talk about that, Adam, real quick?
You know what? Yeah, sorry. So if you recall last year, because we talk very fast and there's just not a lot of time, there's a new Google form, and you're going to get this sent to you later this morning as well. But any feedback, questions, you know how to get a hold of us 3. We'll sit down with you face-to-face, call us, email us. We just want to make sure no one's left out, and we're simply just not going to have enough time. I mean, we may, depending, but we want to make sure that if you have a question or feedback or want to meet with us specifically about a topic, we'll do that. So you'll get that link in email form sometime today.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about this morning was the financial condition of the school district. And each year we have an audit that's completed after our school year closes on June 30th. And our audit came back completed in November. It was presented to the board in November, submitted to the state in November, and we're sharing it with you today. All of this information is also on our transparency site on the school district webpage, so feel free to look there. There's quite a bit of information. Our audit was completed. We had a clean and unmodified opinion. That means that there was no findings, no material weaknesses, no issues at all with our audit. It was clean and we received the best rating possible. The audit concluded the 16-17 school year with a fund balance of $1,732,738, or about 5.5% of district expenditures and 5.9% of revenue. One of the things we want to point out is a couple of years ago, the state began tracking fund balance not only as a percentage of revenue, but also, not only as a percentage of expense, but also as a percentage of revenue. So when you look at fund balance, there's typically 3 numbers: the dollar value, percentage of your expenditures, and percentage of your revenue. We were fortunate that we were able to be removed off the fiscal distress list 3 years earlier than what we had projected through conservative budgeting and through expenditure reduction and increasing our revenues. And so now we're well above that 5%, and that's something that we're very pleased about. The other thing that I wanted to share with you this morning is just a very brief summary of the year-end financial data from the last school year. And this presentation is actually from our auditors. It's on the website. And I want to take a few minutes just to go through a couple key pieces of information. This pie chart shows what our revenue was for the 16-17 school year. And as you might recall, after Proposal A was passed in Michigan in 1994, the vast majority of our funding comes from the state in the form of per pupil allowance. We receive just about 76% of our revenue, and that's from state aid. That's that per dollar or per student dollar amount that we receive. We receive about $1.1 million in federal money. This is typically for title programming, Title I and Title II, as well as for our special education programming. And again, post-Proposal A, this local funding is about $5.3 million. So again, before Proposal A, it was flipped around where the majority of the funding came from the local. Now it comes from the state level. When we look at expenditures, we're obviously in a people business. We don't own a manufacturing plant. We don't produce things. We don't have equipment and those sorts of stuff. So a lot of our assets and our expenses are in people. The state has us code staff members that deal directly with instruction and staff members that deal with supporting services. This one is a little bit The instruction one is a little bit deceiving because that is anyone tied directly to classroom instruction. And supporting services is anything from our ancillary special education staff to teachers, principals, custodians, etc. So you can see that we have very little expenditure in the area of capital outlay, for example. And that's by design. We're very fortunate that we've got a good bond fund going and we have a sinking fund, so we don't have to pay for those capital expenses out of the general fund. The big thing, obviously, for us is, as I said before, we're in a people business. This chart is our general fund expenditures by object. If we put salary and benefits together, it's about 86% of our budget. Again, that makes sense because we're educating students and that's a very people-intensive enterprise. Last couple slides that I wanted to share with you is our 10-year enrollment analysis. In our school district, you can kind of draw a line at 3,400 students. And in a given year, we might be plus 20 or we might be minus 20, but that 3,400 is kind of our stable mark. And as you can see, that's leveled out, a little bit of a dip last year, but starting to level out, and that's a good thing for us. That's a positive. You see here our state foundation allowance trend. Something I just want to mention briefly. We're often critical of the state based on the amount of money that we provide for us per student to educate a child. But one thing I do want to point out is that after a dip in 2012, that number has gone up. So again, that's a good thing. I just wish it would go up at the same rate that our expenses go up. And the last thing that I wanted to share with you is just what our fund balance trend has been. In 2015, we hit the low point of our fund balance of about $250,000. We had a change in leadership in the superintendent's office. In the 15-16 school year, when I was the interim, we put about $750,000 back in. Last year, when Dr. Hartley came on board under his leadership, we put another $900,000 back in, bringing us back up above that healthy 5% figure at $1.7 million. Now, we still have a ways to go, but we're out of that real danger zone. We got out of it 3 years early, which we're really proud of. Our goal is to get back above 10%, because when we get above a 10% fund balance, that's generally recognized as very healthy by the state of Michigan and by our auditors. And when we get above a 10% fund balance, that also is when we typically have enough cash in the bank when we don't have to borrow in September when we don't receive state aid. So we've really focused the last couple of years on shoring up our finances, getting a strong commitment to building that fund balance back up. We're going to continue to do that, but one of the things we're also going to push towards the front of the agenda and focus on even more so now that we're off that list and continuing to grow the fund balance, focusing back on instruction again, and freeing up some resources and putting some tools in place to help you in the classroom to really have the teaching and learning experience enhanced for our students here in Fenton. So with that said, I'll hand it back over to Heidi, and that is my section.